Welcome back. With the 2022 final Matric exams about to kick off, it's normal for pupils, parents and teachers to feel stressed and anxious. Exam time is stressful for matriculants, but it can be challenging for parents who may not know how to be supportive and encouraging. It's during this time that they need all the support they can get from parents to keep them motivated until the end. But what can parents and educators alike do to support pupils during this stressful time? More on this, I am joined by educational psychologist Vanessa Barnes. Vanessa, a very good evening to you, and thank you for joining us at eNCA. You know, this is a very anxious time for a lot of matriculants around the country as they're about to put pen to paper tomorrow. I remember myself trying to get those notes early morning before I write the exam. I want maybe the do's and don'ts. Is that a good thing to do, or what should the learners be actually doing now as they head to the exams tomorrow?
So I think the thing at this point is focus on what you do know, because you know a lot more than you actually realize that you do. So don't focus on what you think you don't know. What we do know that's really important is to get sleep, as anxious as you might be and as difficult as it might be to fall asleep tonight. We do know that the brain needs sleep in order to turn the information that you've learned during the day from your short-term memory into your long-term memory. So better to rather get a good night's sleep than to try and cram right up until the last hour, or, as you say, wake up really early and try and cram in those notes at the last minute. Rather let your brain do its thing based on the work that you have already done.
And tomorrow morning comes, Vanessa. What do you do then at school? How do you prepare yourself for when the time comes for you to put pen to paper?
So a few things. The one thing I always say first is make sure that you get to the venue early so that you're not worried about traffic or transport or anything like that. So get to the venue on time. That does alleviate the anxiety. Then the one thing that I always also say to learners is don't chat to your friends before or after you write your papers. So we do have a tendency to want to ask them, what did you study for this, or what did you write for that answer, or whatever the case is. And what could end up happening there is you could become more anxious because they may not be right in terms of the information that they're giving you, and you might be right. You might have written down the right answer or studied the correct thing. So I usually say don't talk to your friends about the exam or the paper. Going into the exam, then practicing some nice exam skills. So when you sit down, you read through the paper first, read very carefully. If you're allowed to, you can use a pencil just to make some notes on the paper as you read through it. And then keep an eye on the time as well. So focus first on the questions that you really do know the answers to, and keep an eye on the time. If you see you're running out of time, stick with the questions that you're very confident on and come back to the other ones later on that you weren't sure about, if you have the time. Do go back and check your paper, but don't second guess yourself too much.
And then I want to move on then to the role of the parents, because often, more than often or not, they do necessarily put a lot of pressure to the matriculants themselves. What can parents do during the stressful times, of course, for the matric learners?
So there are quite a few things we can do, and I think it's not just parents. I think it's educators, and it's all of us adults really, who make comments like, these are the most important exams of your life. And those comments can sometimes actually be quite harmful. Yes, it's good to make them aware of the importance of these exams, but ultimately it is not the end of their life and the end of the world if they don't succeed in these exams. So making broad, sweeping statements like that is something that we really need to be careful of, because everybody is unique in terms of their talents and their differences. And as parents, we need to be celebrating our children in terms of their talents and their uniqueness. We, as adults, we've gone through life, and it's easier for us to take on that perspective that failure does happen and it's okay, because we've been through life and we've experienced both failures and successes. But through both of those, we've realized that the world does still carry on turning. In terms of parents, make sure that the home environment is conducive to studying as well. So keeping noise levels down, not having sort of friends over, or the younger siblings or whatever the case is, helping your child stick to a bit of a schedule as well in terms of their studying, making sure that they're getting to bed on time, that they're eating enough, that they're drinking enough water, that they're taking breaks, and just supporting them and showing them that you love them and you're proud of them for getting this far, no matter what happens going forward with the exams.
Very important, part of them, no matter what happens going forward. And then when it comes to the educators then, Vanessa, I'd assume that they'd be in a position where they think they've done all they can. They've gave them the study material to this point to prepare them for the examinations themselves. Is there anything more they can do, given that it's the faces that they'll be seeing in those examination rooms?
Definitely. I mean, these are the educators have spent sometimes more time with these children in the last couple of months than their parents have had the opportunity to spend time with them. So they know the children really, really well. And I think just empowering them with keeping them calm, giving them some skills, just like some mindfulness or just to ground themselves or whatever, going through, if you get an opportunity before the exam, just some strategies in terms of how to write your exam and how to stay calm during the exam. But just that encouragement and that support. Again, re-emphasizing that their entire future does not depend on this. If they don't do well, there are other options out there for them, and making them aware of that as well.
All right. Vanessa Barnes, thank you very much for your time and your insight. That was educational psychologist Vanessa Barnes alerting us to some do's and don'ts as the matric learners head to their first exams of course, matric here.